Oh no, I took mine so. Humbling experience for me. I actually didn't realize how long I've known you. It's been 12 years.
Yeah. Wow.
So when he got out of the military, he's a Operation Iraqi Freedom and Afghanistan veteran. He did 2 tours. He's a United States Marine.
Hoorah.
And he's going to tell you a little bit about the story of how this book even became. I met Andy through the love of motorcycles, actually. So he's done a lot for veterans. And I personally don't have a lot of people that I really admire as far as what they do. For me, his organization is a true charity. Boston Wounded Vet Ride. They have helped so many veterans over the years, and every single penny is donated to the veterans. They have provided veterans with adaptive motorcycles. They've helped improve families' homes. So to me, that is what really matters. There's a lot of charities out there that are full of baloney and pay a lot of people. That's not. So that's kind of how I met Andrew, and it's just kind of moved on from there. I'm so proud of him. These books are amazing, and I'm so proud to have him here today. So thank you.
This is a great turnout for a local library, and I've done these all over the country, all over the world, book signings, and you know, to be here in Foxborough, clearly a nice patriotic town that on a Wednesday night wants to hear some cool war stories and about a book, and it feels awesome to be here. Again, I'm sorry for being a little late. I thought leaving Winthrop, Massachusetts between 3:30 and 3:45 was sufficient time. Clearly not. There's no other excuse. I see Caster Salemi here.
Yes, sir.
You're 101 now, sir?
102.
102. Caster was a field artilleryman in the Philippines during World War II. And I'm so awesome to have him here, and hopefully he'll sign some books with me at the end of it. And I see other veterans here who I'm not familiar with or where I am, and would love to get to know everybody after this. So, as I was introduced, my name's Andy Biggio, and I'm not the first Andy Biggio. And actually, the anniversary of my grandfather's brother being killed in action in World War II is next week, and I'm named after him, PFC Andy Biggio, who was killed in Italy during World War II fighting with the 34th Infantry Division. If you're not familiar with the 34th Infantry Division, they had over 510 days of combat during World War II from North Africa all the way up Italy to the end of the war, finishing the war right near Switzerland. A superb, remarkable unit. They're now a Minnesota National Guard unit and an Iowa National Guard unit. But this was a unit that really changed my life and motivated me to write this book. I served in Iraq and Afghanistan, and as you guys know, here in Massachusetts, we name town intersections after those who never came back from war. You know, it's not uncommon to drive around Winthrop, Massachusetts, or Foxborough, wherever, and see PFC John Smith Square, Corporal, Jebediah Schwartz Circle, Square. These were real people. These were young kids who never got to start their lives because they were killed in World War II. They were drafted right out of high school and sent over to war. Many of them replacements who never even got to have friends or get known or have a story, and just killed right away in combat. Real awful type meat grinder experience that happened a lot during World War II. So I survived Iraq, Afghanistan. I came home, and there I am sitting at that red light of PFC Andy Biggio Square, looking at my own name up there. And it was kind of a mental, mind game. I was dealing with the stresses of being a returning veteran. I was dealing with the stresses of being a police officer. I'm 11 years now. I serve on the Boston Police Department. And I finally had enough, and I'm looking at that kid's name at that square, at that intersection, and I said, I want to know what happened to PFC Andy Biggio. I want to know what happened to him. Why did he die and I got to live? How come I got to live a successful life and have kids and party and drink and pretend to be a war hero, and this kid never even, what happened to him? I guess it was a form of survivor's guilt for a relative I never got to know, or a person I never met. And I remember my grandmother telling me she saved Andy's letters he wrote home before he was killed in combat in a shoebox under her bed. And I went and retrieved those letters one of these days, and I sat there and I was just absolutely captivated. And the first letter I had pulled out of this shoebox of letters, oh God, I wish it was not the first letter I pulled out, but it was his last letter. So I was reading him in reverse on accident. And it was, "Dear Mom, can you please mail me a gold cross to wear around my neck? I really don't want to go up this hill again. It sounds like they're making us go up this hill again tomorrow. Send me a gold cross that I can wear around my neck." And that letter was written on September 12th, 1944, and Andy Biggio was killed September 17th, 1944. And I wish this letter could be photo scanned and put in every high school across the country so people can understand and learn what sacrifice is. And what so many of these little town squares you see, these graveyards, and the graveyards that are still over in Italy and France and Belgium and the Philippines, and how many of these letters were written home by kids knowing that maybe tomorrow they're probably going to die. A 19-year-old kid putting pen to paper, asking his mother for a gold cross, damn well knowing that letter is not going to get to her for another 30 days, most likely, month. And by the time she packages a gold cross and sends it back, it's another 30 days. And I know damn well that Rose Biggio, my great-grandmother, sent that gold cross, and I often wonder what happened to it. Just today, I was reading the personal effects that were found on his body before he was killed. Blood-stained leather, a spoon, a mess kit, a knife, souvenir money. These individual death reports you can actually get from the National Archives. So here I am, the first letter I pull out is my great uncle at 19 years old, more or less begging for his life. And clearly I saw the date September 12th and I said, oh crap, he was killed September 17th. Let me flip the shoebox around. And the first letter I pulled out was, "Dear Mom, today I arrived at basic training at Fort Jackson. I have an M1 Grand rifle. This is the new kind of rifle. It holds 8 rounds. It's going to be better than the Germans or better than the Japanese. And I can't wait to get home to the," there was like a local diner in Winthrop called Ham's, which is where they all hang out and drink milkshakes. And I'm going to tell everyone I was during the war. And this really motivated infantryman, really telling he had 2 brothers and a father. And here he is telling his mom all about this rifle. And it reversed psychology from me being sad to me being, I need to buy an M1 Grand rifle. I want to feel what he felt. I wanted to hold what this kid held. Well, maybe this would solve some of my own stresses. This was going to connect me to this long lost relative. So I went and I bought an M1 Grand rifle. And the rifle arrived to my house. And the first thing I did was I took it to family dinner at my grandparents' house. My cousins, my aunts, And, they're not the most conservative bunch of people, so I'm bringing a gun to the dinner table and I'm showing everybody this rifle. And they're like, wow, that's great. It just didn't resonate to them the way it did to me. They're not veterans, I am, and I'm trying to explain, no, it's not just a gun. This is what Uncle Andy had before he was killed. This is what the kind of gun he carried. This is what he was so excited about to tell his mother about. We should have something like this in our family. And I guess their reaction kind of took the wind out of my sails. So now I was like, now what? Now what do I do with this? And I remembered a Marine who at the time was 91 years old, who lived in West Roxbury, named Joe Drago. And I said, I used to run into Joe at the Marine Corps birthdays. He was a World War II Marine. I'll take this rifle to him. He'll appreciate it. He'll know exactly what it was. And this is kind of how I knew, you know, something that we really didn't realize with the World War I veterans. When the last World War I veteran died in 2011 at 108 years old. His name was Frank Buckles. He lived in West Virginia. He was an ambulance driver. He was the last known American World War I veteran that passed away. And this is kind of how the clock hit me that it was a race against time for World War II veterans, because when I knocked on Joe Drago's door with that rifle in a case, he didn't answer the door this time. He just said, "Come in." And I walked in and I saw that Joe, who used to attend our Marine Corps birthdays when I was on active duty in the Marines, he was bound to his recliner. You know, his legs had atrophied, really, really tiny, and I'm holding this rifle, and I said, "Hey, Joe, do you remember this?" And I put the rifle in his hands. And when I did that, this hunched over 91-year-old man turned into a 19-year-old kid again. He picked up that rifle, he shouldered it, he's waving it around, he's laughing, smiling ear to ear, you know? A real Marine Corps mental case. This guy. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. We have something wrong with us. 91 years old. You know, I can tell you all the X-rated stuff that came out of his mouth, but you can read the book. And we talked about the Battle of Okinawa, April Fool's Day, 1945. We talked about the Battle of Okinawa for at minimum 3 hours. And I hit record on my phone, and I left my phone just kind of facing the ground because I was too shy and didn't want to violate his privacy by sticking a camera in his face. And I just hit record, and we talked about the Battle of Okinawa. And I said to him, I said, "Joe, sign your name on this rifle, please. I want to remember this forever. I knew in the back of my mind, I knew I was in a race against time, and I said, how would it be cool to have a rifle signed by a vet, you know, World War II, and you never know." And he didn't want to do it. He said, "It's such a beautiful weapon. You really want me to mark it up?" I'm like, "Yes, sign your name on it." He signed it, Joe Drago. I Company, 22nd Marine Regiment, 6th Marine Division, Okinawa. And when I left his house, when I left that porch, I had a surge in my body that said, get as many signatures on this rifle as possible. And 7 years later, it's gotta be, I have about 412 names on this rifle. Everyone from cooks to pilots to Medal of Honor recipients to infantrymen to black tankers to Japanese Americans who served in the 442nd Regimental Combat Team in Italy, to Chinese Americans, to Hispanics, to female nurses. I wanted to represent the whole war. Not just every campaign and every job skill, but everyone that played a part, everyone, Tuskegee Airmen, everyone you read books about your whole life who played a part to win this war. I wanted to represent it on the rifle. And it took on a real life of its own because for many, many, many reasons I can't even tell you. So I'm gonna put a little visual to everything I just said, and I'm gonna press play right here on this. Hopefully the audio is set up.
In 1943, they took anyone who could walk. So I went into the Army. Training was in Paris, Texas. Shipped off to New Guinea, and then made the landing in Luzon in the Philippines. I was in the 251st Field Artillery Battalion, Battery B. We lost about 10% of our outfit fighting the Japanese. I went home on a hospital ship during a typhoon with everybody was seasick. I was discharged as a T4 sergeant. I first met Andy in November 2022 at a VFW breakfast thanks to David Danforth and the motorcycle group, the Veterans Brotherhood. There were 7 World War II veterans there, and we all signed a rifle. We slowly get to know Andy and his work with the World War II veterans, bringing them to battlefield locations in Europe. That was in January 2023. We mentioned to him that our family wanted to repatriate religious articles to Monte Cassino that had been in our family for 80 years. Although I couldn't go, he arranged for help for my son and nephew to return them by putting us in touch with the right people so that a return could happen. We were invited by Andy to attend the book signing for the release of Rifle 2 at the American Heritage Museum in Hudson, Massachusetts. There were 40 World War II veterans in attendance. I personally signed many books, flags, posters, rifles, and helmets that day. It was a great connection to make. And I want to thank Andy for his tireless dedication to members of the greatest generation, all our World War II veterans. Thank you all for coming.
Started it, okay, because my uncle.
He was actually, you know,
But I can explain how much he does for breakfast.
Okay.
It's every May.
Yes, and they
Any February, we usually have cabin fever party.
maybe Zoom class with us or something.